Special Olympics athlete, designing the first ever Barbie doll with Down syndrome, and working in Washington, D.C. as a disability advocate and lobbyist.
When we talk about disabilities, the things we can do are just as important as the things we can't. And today's guest does a lot of amazing things.
This is Enable, the Disability Podcast, where we'll share stories, experiences, support, resources, and more for people with disabilities and different abilities. We are at Enable Podcast on social media. My name is Jeff Herbert.
And my name is Kurt Howard. Today we're talking with Kayla McKeon, the manager of public policy at the National Down Syndrome Society. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Kayla, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what your experiences were growing up with Down syndrome.
Sure. So I live in Syracuse, New York. I really live in Cicero, New York. And I'm very active in my community as well as my church community. I love the parish I attend. Very, very nice. I am an avid reader. I love to read. I read any genre of books. Right now, I'm reading a murder mystery, Michael Connelly, very interesting. But when I set my mind to it, I can read a book a week. But I love swimming, especially when it's this warm outside, because it is definitely warm enough. But I do live independently, and I'm currently in my office. But when I was growing up as a little kid, I lived at home with my parents, Mark and Patty McKeon, and our pet dog. And my parents always treated me very well. But they weren't shy about punishing me when I got in trouble as a kid. And boy, I did get in trouble as a kid. But they treated me like any other kid would. So, and honestly, I wouldn't be here where I am today if they hadn't. So I feel like they definitely made a difference.
Well, great. One of the things before we get into the Special Olympics, I wanted to ask you about the books. Since you're a voracious reader, what have been some of the books that have been most helpful to you?
Let's see. I like reading different genres, so it's hard to pinpoint, but I like the ones that motivate you and make you think outside the box.
All right, great. Well, you've competed in the Special Olympics in multiple sports, winning a bronze and silver medal at the 2011 World Games in Athens.
Yes.
What kind of training did you have to do for that?
When I was in Athens, Greece, I did win a bronze and silver medal, but I also went into the 2022 USA Games in Orlando, Florida, and I won a gold and bronze medal in that competition. And both in Florida and in Athens, I played basketball. Do you know what that is?
I do, but for those of our audience that might not know what it is, please explain.
Sure. So basketball, you have two teams of four, and you have a red ball and you have a green ball. And the object is to get the closest to the little white ball called the Paulina, and that's just the name of the game. You can spot people, which means get out of my way politely. But that's the name of the bocce game. We play at Onondaga Lake Parkway on Sundays for practice. And we have at least 30 athletes and maybe 5 to 10 coaches with us. We always warm up. We always do some sort of exercise. We walk around the courts, and that's just to get us ready to practice. When you can see what we can do, you'll love it. So I encourage you to come out and watch us on Sunday.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Now, I know that you work at the National Down Syndrome Society. You became the first registered lobbyist with Down syndrome, and you were recently named to the Forbes Accessibility Top 100 list. It seems like you can do anything, but what kind of challenges do you face on the job?
When I first started with NDSS, I started back in 2017, and I lived in Washington, D.C. for a time. When I accepted my position, I got homesick, so it was easier to move back. So like this, I do a hybrid style, and it works for me, absolutely. That, and I love to travel. And I have upcoming travel in a month or two, so I'm looking forward to that. but I always go to DC whenever I am needed. But as far as the challenge goes, it's always getting time on congressional schedules for meetings because they're always so busy with members of Congress. They go to the floor, they go and vote. We need to find some wiggle room here so I can get into the offices so we can talk, because we want to have those hard conversations with legislators that are definitely important to the Down syndrome community.
Well, Jeff and I care a great deal about disability rights. And we're curious, what kind of disability rights or improvements do you think that are needed most right now?
So right now, I know our community is facing several new challenges today, both on federal and state level, but I'm going to talk on the federal level first, because for years, the National Down Syndrome Society has worked to make Medicaid work better. But right now, our sole focus is protecting those services that we have advocated so hard in the first place. So for example, I receive home and community-based services, which means Medicaid helps me live independently. So I have mentors throughout my week so they can help me live as independently as I can. It works out because I cook and I clean and just need some guidance. But any cuts to that, and the HC, the Home Community Services, but now on the state level, it's not just healthcare or independence and inclusion, but allows folks with disabilities to live, work, and really just thrive in our communities today.
What kind of legislation are you lobbying for right now, Kayla? What's going on in Washington?
So right now we are currently advocating on the transformation to competitive integrated employment, where people are still being paid under some minimum wage. So people like me are still getting paid since an hour, and it's not fair to me if I'm in the same job as you and I'm getting paid below minimum wage. So that's one of the bills we're currently working on. We're also working on purple alerts. So let's say I'm with you two and we're at a mall and I go missing from you two. You two will raise something called a purple alert, because I'm too young for a silver alert, but too old for an amber alert. So you guys will raise the purple alert saying, hey, this girl went missing from our care. And you will show a picture of me, and they will raise a purple alert so they can better find me. And then, of course, this one I'm passionate about is the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act, because that encompasses the marriage bill. Let's say if two individuals like myself and my boyfriend want to get married, not saying that, but if we ever did, A, our incomes will combine, and B, we'll both lose our crucial benefits that we both need, and we can't have it both ways. So it's between us getting married or us keeping our benefits.
Thank you.
We have to ask about the Barbie doll. You helped design the first Barbie doll with Down syndrome. What was that process like? What kinds of decisions did you have to make?
First, thank you, Jeff. The great question, because the end result was definitely amazing. And now I can happily say we have two Barbie dolls with Down syndrome, too. Talking about the first Barbie doll with Down syndrome, myself contacted NDSS with just the idea of making a Barbie with Down syndrome. So I was brought into the meetings firsthand on the prototype, just to help shape the characteristics of the doll's features. So as you can see, people with Down syndrome have the almond-shaped eyes, the curved pinky, and the crease in the palm. So, and they really did pay attention to the small details too, like her dress is yellow and blue, and they are butterflies. So those are just some symbols of Down syndrome. And then, of course, her necklace, the pink one with the 3 upward arrows. Those arrows represent the third copy of the 21st chromosome, which we call trisomy 21. And honestly, I loved the experience too. I was flown out to LA, and so we just introduced the doll to some families, and they were able to play with the doll firsthand. And I love seeing the smiles on their faces. Because later on, Candy, Pickard, and I, our CEO of NDSS, we were honored guests on Good Morning America to do the big unveiling of the doll, and that really flew off the bookshelves.
Well, this has enabled the Disability Podcast. Please follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Next, we'd like to discuss enabling friendship, because even when it feels like it, you're not alone. We're not defined solely by the things we can't do when there's so many things we can.
We would love to know more about what your life is like, Kayla. What do you like to do outside of work? How do you find people that you connect with socially?
Besides drinking coffee, outside of work, I love watching cooking shows like Beef Barbie Flay, Chopped, those barbecue roll. Those are some ideas of what I can cook. Because living independently, I cook and I save my meals in my freezer. So it just gives me different, a plethora of ideas of what I can cook. And I like, on my downtime, I love knitting. I can knit scarves, blankets, hats. I make black hats for one of my mom's friends. She works in the observatory room. I think it's the observatory room. At the Syracuse airport. So I've been making black hats for the veterans that go through the airport. But when I was in USA Games, I made a lot of friends, and some more so. But that's how we stay connected, as I get to see them at Special Olympics when I went. I was in Ithaca last week, so I saw a lot of my friends. So I love talking and texting, and sometimes we were just FaceTime too. So it was really fun.
So you like coffee?
Yes.
So what's your poison? What's your favorite coffee?
I love iced coffee. That's always a good go-to.
Okay. Well,
any flavor.
Yeah, I like to go to the gas station to get my coffee, so I'm not a Starbucks guy. But
that's okay. I'm an any kind of iced coffee person.
Very good.
I'm not picky.
Very good. Do you experience any challenges going out with friends and family? What does that look like?
Sometimes today people have preconceived notions about somebody with Down syndrome. So I went to a local restaurant, I think a couple of years ago, and we were being seated, and the hostess was asking me if I want a coloring book and crayons. I politely said, "No, thank you. I'd rather have a glass of red wine." So I got my red wine to go with my pizza that night, and yes, it was worth it. But there's always challenges with people with Down syndrome and other disabilities too. It doesn't always have to be Down syndrome. But I remember taking my road test when I got my driver's license. And I had to take the test 5 times. But I always wore sunglasses because, the preconceived notions about somebody with Down syndrome, they was to see, oh, here's Down syndrome, and she won't pass. So instead of defining that, I wore sunglasses so they didn't see I had Down syndrome, and I was able to pass on my 5th try.
My daughter is going for her driver's license right now, or next week actually. So I'm very much in that mindset of the challenges of that in general for everyone.
Absolutely. Please tell I said good luck.
I'm sorry about the experience at the restaurant too. What is it that you wish that more people knew or understood about you and others with similar experiences?
Sure. So people will have some similar experiences, and some might have their own experiences, but they're not alone. Because that's why we're here to advocate, and we'll help with that too, especially on the national level, working with the National Down Syndrome Society, and we can help point you in the right direction. I love a couple of mottos, so I like to say that we are more alike than different, because if we were all alike, it would be boring as heck. I also say nothing about us without us, because we should have a say in all of these conversations, that we don't want to be left out. Include us. Talk to us, because we want to talk to you too. because we wear our pants one leg at a time, just like you two.
Well, Kayla, thank you for taking time to share your story and to talk to us. Do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
I just want to say, don't be afraid to advocate. And don't squash our dreams. We are available members of our community and want people to know that.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. This is Enable, the Disability Podcast. We are at Enable Podcast on social media. Please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Please share this podcast with your friends and family so we can share more stories of people with disabilities and different abilities that bring us all together.